Welcome to the Kurpan Community Health Center. This is the Posbindu team at the Kurpan Public Health Center. As we are currently seeing, this team is currently busy preparing medical equipment that will be used for Posbindu activities. Do not forget also the medicines that will be given to patients with non-communicable diseases. After making careful preparations, now is the time to go. Previously, we first introduced the Posbindu team from the Kurpan Community Health Center. Head of the Posbindu program, Lisna Sari Dui. Luvia Inna Pramada Sari is a nurse. Alia Hasna as a nutritionist. Esvawadi is a nurse. Finalia T. Law is a midwife. And Gusti Herliana Winata Hidaya is a nurse. Now the team is complete and is leaving for Posbindu activities in the village. This is Mr. Aziansyar. He served as a speedboat driver. This small speedboat has long been used by the Kurpan Health Center in off-field activities to go to the village. The trip using river transportation takes about 15 minutes. The village to be addressed is the village which is located almost at the end of Kurpan district, namely the village of Jambu. Now we have arrived at the village. Due to the receding river water, climbing to the top of the pier was quite high. As usual, this team prayed before starting the activity. Integrated Assisted Post, or also called Posbindu, is an activity of monitoring and early detection of risk factors for integrated non-communicable diseases which is managed through integrated guidance. The main goal is to screen non-communicable diseases such as hypertension, diabetes mellitus, high cholesterol, asthma, PJK and stroke, as well as cervical and breast cancer in the community to increase the movement of people to live a healthy life. Before starting Posbindu activities, Surdic exercises are usually carried out in all Posbindu villages. Surdic gymnastics is an instruction from the Minister of Health of the Republic of Indonesia regarding the movement for healthy living people. This instruction was issued because the trend of non-communicable diseases, or PTM for short, is very high in Indonesia. PTM means, among others, heart disease, cholesterol, diabetes. And now the Posbindu team and its cadres are ready to welcome patients who will come. The Posbindu team from the Posbindu has arrived at the guidance post in the village. After arriving, the team immediately prepared to put on their respective health equipment. They are village Posbindu cadres. They are in charge of serving patients who will come later to have their health checked.
Posbindu semangka.
The patients started arriving. Neatly, the patients queue in the seats that have been provided. Before starting Posbindu activities, the patients were given counseling by Mr. Ramat Tarwina. He is a booster nurse in the village. This counseling explains the two dominant diseases from non-communicable diseases, namely hypertension and diabetes mellitus. This counseling helps the village community to recognize diseases and know how to prevent them from an early age. After the counseling is complete, then the patient takes turns in checking his health. At the first table, the patient registers first. On the second table, the interview. At this table, the patient will be asked about his illness complaints. Next is the third table of measurements. The table will measure the patient's height, weight, and abdominal circumference. Before taking measurements, the patient will be checked first for blood pressure. The next stage is on the fourth table. Namely laboratory tests. This examination includes blood tests. The patient will have a blood sample drawn. This examination aims to determine the size of the patient's cholesterol and sugar levels. And the results will be delivered directly to the patient. The fifth table of consultation. The patient is first given back coaching by the Posbindu cadres. Here the cadre conveyed the patient's illness. The patient's history will always be recorded. The next stage, the nutritionist will suggest what foods should be reduced, and what should be increased for consumption. Then the doctor asked again about the complaint suffered by the patient. After knowing the patient's complaints, then the patient will be given medicines to relieve the illness. Providing medication to the patient is the last stage of this activity. That way, the activities of Posbindu today are perfect. Lisna Sari Dwi, program leader of the Posbindu team at the Kuripan Public Health Center, is giving an evaluation of today's activities. After each activity, an evaluation is always carried out. And there are also some matters that were conveyed to the Posbindu cadres in the village. We are seeing one of the successes in building a solid and cohesive team. These are the IVA visual inspection of acetic acid and soreness clinical breast examination activities by midwives and village midwives, with the aim of screening disease risk factors cervical and breast cancer in WUS female fertile age who are married. Jambu village, Kuripan district. This population of approximately 547 inhabitants has an area of 8 square kilometers. Now the Posbindu team will monitor non-communicable diseases from house to house. The purpose of this activity is to carry out early detection and monitoring of risk factors for major non-communicable diseases including smoking, unhealthy diet, lack of physical activity, obesity, stress, consumption of alcoholic beverages, hypertension, hyperglycemia, hypercholesterol. The first step of this activity is weighing the residents. Next, measure the circumference of the stomach. Check cholesterol and glucose levels. Then measure blood pressure. This mother's blood pressure was very high. The doctor gave this mother advice. What should not be eaten by mothers from now on?
Misalnya goreng-goreng makanan dipakai minyak langsung goreng. Minggu, banyak harus teratur. Padahal darah tinggi itu jangan putus obat.
This mother's name will be recorded as one of the patients at risk of contracting a non-communicable disease. Furthermore, he will be given medicine to relieve his blood pressure.
tenaga itu kalau berjalan tuh kayak lemah aja.
This is an example of a diabetes mellitus patient with hypertension complications. And he was having his health checked by the doctor and the Posbindu team during a home visit. She is now unable to move much and only lies weakly on her small bed.
Nggak cukup dengan infus, harus diberi obat.
Banyak ambulans semoga dia sehat walafiat. Jangan lupa obat diminum teratur. Kami mohon maaf mengganggu kemudian kami pamit dulu gitu.
Now it's time to say goodbye. Posbindu activities today ended smoothly. And it's time for us to come back.